Hi all. Thank you for coming tonight. Tonight we're going to have a conversation about some of the problems that people are having with IR at different conversion levels, like 590 or 665 or 720 or so on. And I hope we can answer some of those questions, and we'll do some post processing, and I will show you all my approach to subtle false color I/O post-processing. And the one thing that I ask you to keep in mind is that with color infrared, false color infrared, it's all highly subjective. It is up to the eye of the artist. Do not let people tell you that your work is gaudy or drug-related. If you like things that are wild and in your face, that's fine. There's a place for everything in false color IR. Now, you guys know what the roots of false color IR is, correct?
No, I do not.
Richard, this is a question for you. Do you remember the Kodak Airchrome infrared?
Yep. I posted some from the 70s or 60s. Yeah.
That's why I picked on you, because I knew you'd know the answer. That particular film, Kodak designed during wartime as a film for surveillance from aircraft over enemy positions, because it showed things on the ground in a different fashion that enabled them to pick out enemy tanks and positional information and things like that. And you guys know when they manufacture film, color film, there's basically 3 layers of color information, right? There's RGB, okay? And then they put dye layers in between each of the color layers that block the light from the layer above it, so that light cannot penetrate. Okay? So they have these dye filters in between the 3 color layers, so that they let one particular light sensitize the first layer, and then it goes through, and then it hits this dye filter, and it stops it. So then the next 2 colors of light can come through. So, for instance, if this was our blue layer, the blue light that passed through would sensitize that layer, okay? And it was not sensitive to green. So the green would then pass through this, okay? And then there would be a blue blocker, and then only the green light would come through, because unfortunately the green layer was sensitive to both blue and green. So that's how normal color film is done, not in that particular order, okay? But that's a basic, simplistic approach to film emulsions. So what they do for the Kodak Airchrome is they would swap 2 color layers in the sandwich of the film sensitizing that's been layered on top of the gelatin on the bottom. Okay? And so the R and the B layers, the red and the blue, they were reversed from the normal way that film would record it, and then they were also sensitive to infrared above 700 nanometers. So that would give us the real funky coloration right out of the camera. As soon as they were processed, you would get these pictures when the greenery would take on wild gold, reds, magenta colors, just crazy colors. But like I said, it was designed for aircraft reconnaissance. But as the war ended, people realized that they liked what they saw in working with Airchrome. So a civilian market cropped up for it, and Kodak continued manufacturing it till about 10 years ago. So all of a sudden, along comes digital infrared. In black and white infrared was very easy, okay, both in film and in digital, but people still wanted the color, so they started researching and adding filters over the sensor of the camera that allowed a certain portion of the visible spectrum to be captured along with infrared. So I'm going to show you real quick here. We're going to go to the chart. Let me bring this up. I have a chart. Now here we go. This is the normal color spectrum that a digital sensor is capable of recording, and it's this black line here. Okay, starts down around 300 nanometers, which is this is deep down into the ultraviolet. Normally, as with all things optical, the colors ramp up, and once they reach about a third of the way up, then the sensor is capable of starting to record what it sees. So you see here, even for our eyes, this is what our eyes can see, from about 350 nanometers up to a little below 700 nanometers. The purples all the way up into the deep reds. Okay, so these other curves that you see here are different infrared conversions. And your question, Richard, about 590, this is 590 right here, this red line. I want you to notice that it starts to go up, and we hit 1/3 right about 590 nanometers, okay? And now we're recording this bright red light. It's getting darker and darker as it gets higher. But this falls smack dab in the middle of the visible spectrum. See, this is the visible spectrum here. So what happens is 590, in order to get the wild colors, it performs a feat that we call poisoning. We're allowing the infrared energy to come through from 720 all the way up, and it's falling off around 875, if you will. This is pure infrared, okay? But we're allowing a large portion of the visible spectrum in the red end of it to also come in and be recorded on the sensor at the same time, thus poisoning the infrared image. Now, you had asked specifically about exposure and funky exposure issues at 590 nanometers. Here's the reason why. While the sensor is capable of recording everything from 300 nanometers up to around 1,000, the metering system on the camera does not. The metering system on the camera is set up and designed to capture just the visible spectrum. It is not designed to meter properly in the infrared or down here below in the deep ultraviolet. So what happens is we've got this burst of light coming through. We've got a 590 nanometer conversion. The metering system sees this bright and deep red area falling on the sensor, falling on the metering pixels. And what happens is it's setting up the exposure on the red channel based on this, and not based on the infrared energy that's far greater. Okay? So what happens is we get a blowout of the red channel, because at 590 nanometers and up, all we're seeing is red. You guys know that, right?
Do now.
Okay. So the meter is metering for that red segment of the visible light, and not so much the infrared light. So what this means to us is, let me stop this. is if you have an RGB histogram on your camera and you're shooting 590 nanometers, most camera systems, not all, but most, the red channel is going to be overexposed by 1, 2, or 3 stops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what this means is you're getting an overexposure of the visible red and an underexposure of the infrared, and you're getting the images burned out where the red is the greatest, which is in the plants. Okay. Some of the newer cameras, the metering system is based on the entire bandwidth that the sensor is capable of capturing, and you don't have this problem. It will give equal parts of its decision making, both to the red and to the infrared. So you don't have this problem. So the first thing you need to do is you need to enable the RGB histogram so you can see this data. If your camera does not have an RGB histogram, then you're going to base this in the post-processing section when you can use the histogram in Photoshop. Okay, we only need to see a couple of pictures to realize if the red is blown out, the red channel is blown out. And for however many stops it's blown out, that means you have to dial in minus EV value in your camera. And I have found that it's typically between 1/3 stop and 3/4 of a stop. You have to dial in a negative EV. All right, you don't need to bracket. You just need to be aware that the red channel's being blown out at 590, also on the 665 nanometer conversion. You have that issue as well, but more so at 590 because you're getting more visible light that's poisoning the overall image. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. But is the histogram... Unfortunately, my camera does not have an RGB histogram. It just has...
Luminance.
Right.
That's all right. You go out and you take a bunch of pictures and you upload them to your computer and look at the histogram there and decide based on the Photoshop histogram if the red channel is being blown out. If it's overexposed by 1/3 of a stop or a whole stop or 3 stops, then you have to dial in some negative exposure compensation. You just leave it set all the time.
Okay.
Because it's going to do that all the time with that camera.
Okay.
And you don't... Go ahead, Richard.
No, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
I'm just saying that's why I uploaded the hotspot images with the histogram from Lightroom, so you could see the exposure via the histogram. That's all.
Okay. All right. I didn't pay any attention to the histogram, to be honest with you. I was more concerned with winning my... I have 3 eBay things going on. All right. Two film processors, one for 35 and one for 120, and the 120 camera. But I did look at the hotspots, but I didn't pay any attention to the histogram. But we can do that right now. We can go look at those, okay? So
May I ask a couple questions, Mark?
Certainly.
You noted that some of the metering systems now compensate or include near IR. How can you tell that from reading the spec sheet?
You can't.
Yeah. Okay.
You're going to find out when you're looking at the histogram on the camera if the red channel's blown out or in Photoshop.
Gotcha. And then the other thing is you don't have to change exposure compensation. You could just increase shutter speed, correct?
No.
Why not?
Well, no, you're right. You can. That was just an unthinking outburst. You can do that.
Yeah, the only reason I say is because a lot of times the
manual.
Yeah, because the EV compensation is buried deep in the menu, and it's real easy just to turn the dial and adjust the shutter speed. You should have the same effect, though.
Sure, it will have the same effect. But like I said, look at your histograms.
Oh, definitely. I got you.
Now,
I actually enabled that now, so after every shot, I can see the RGB on that little infrared camera. So it does help.
okay. Now, if you're shooting RAW, of course, it's not going to make that much of a difference because you've got that adjustment leeway in the RAW processing that you can make these changes. But the issue with doing it in post-processing versus getting it right in the cameras is a simple thing. When you take a RAW image on the camera and you're looking at that beautiful picture on the back LCD panel, what you're seeing is a JPG image on that LCD panel that's been processed in the computer, in the camera. And it's determining the processing algorithm based upon the accuracy of that histogram. If that histogram is off, then it's going to make some funky decisions. All right? And you're not going to be able to judge your exposure based on histogram.
Right.
If you don't have the white balance set correctly. And the white balance is so ultimately important in infrared because it affects the layout of that histogram. So that's another thing that we need to take into consideration is getting the white balance correct in the camera. And generally you don't have to set that white balance every time you go out and shoot. The only time you need to set it is if you change a filter on your lens. Okay, that is a big deal. Then you need to re-white balance the camera. And again, we can white balance in post-processing, but we're using the histogram. At least most of us are. We're using a histogram to make a adjustment to our exposure. And if the histogram's wrong because of an offset white balance, then we don't know if we're getting our exposure correct or not. And this is a big deal in infrared. So white balance is the very first rule that we need to take care of and get that camera white balanced properly. And generally, once you have it set, unless you change the nanometers of the filter on the end of the lens, it's going to be set. You're not going to really have to worry about it thereafter. I mean, you might want to fine-tune it here and there, but it's really not necessary. Now, Jennifer, you've been shooting infrared for quite a while now. What is your conversion?
720.
Okay, so while this does affect you a small amount, it's not nearly as in your face as 665 or even greater so at 590. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need to get your white balance correct because it does affect that histogram and it throws off your decision making about exposure.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that, especially when our friend in Iowa started, because she has the same camera as me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we both set our white balance, even though we were getting an error. It actually did set it.
It actually set it, yeah, and that was weird. So
it was weird, and it.
But yeah, you're getting it now. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind shooting at 590. You got to get your white balance right in the camera, okay, Richard?
Got it.
You got to get control of the red channel. And normally, for the infrared, I just say, check the histogram once you've got the white balance set. Check the histogram and look at the red color component of the histogram. If you can't do it in camera, then do it in raw conversion. Okay? And if the red channel is overexposed, and that's normally what happens, the red's overexposed up to a stop, then you compensate for that by dialing some negative exposure compensation and leaving it there. Okay. So that's the issues with false color, getting the white balance right and getting control of the red channel. Because, like I said, most cameras will blow out that red channel. Some of the newer ones aren't doing it now because the meters are more sensitive up into the infrared area, so it's not being poisoned, so to speak. All right?
Cool.
And everything you need to know is in that red channel, because that's where the blowout's going to be. It's going to be in the red. All right? So let's go back to the screen again. And let's pull up Richard's picture. So, Richard, tell me about this image and how you had white balanced the image.
I white balanced the image on green grass, which gave me kind of a bluish purple color.
Okay. This is close, but it's not quite there. This is a little too bluish, a little too purplish up here. And this is way, way blue here in the grasses. Now, this could simply be an issue with that camera. Although you're shooting the XE2, right?
Correct.
I didn't have any issues with mine at all. But the thickness of the filter that they put over the sensor plays a part in this too.
This also has the AR coating.
Yes, and that is going to be a great help for hotspots, but that's all that the AR coating is going to do, is help control those hotspots. But if the filter's a little on the thin side, you're going to get a little bit more light poisoning at the upper frequencies, okay, which is actually down lower nanometers, is higher frequency. So you're going to get reds and you're going to get blues, and you get more of a purplish cast here, okay? What we're looking for on a properly white balanced image, and let's bring this.
I saw those Shaunas, but so how do I white balance the camera now? Because do I use a gray card?
No, you've got to do it on the green grass. It has to be on the grass. Okay? Because when we're shooting infrared, we're looking for monochromatic data in the leaves of living plants, because that reflects the leaves reflect the infrared energy greater than anything else. So they're going to come out more white. But I'm going to show you what it looks like, okay?
Well, I've seen them on Shaunas. I mean, you get this golden sky.
Yes. Yep. Let me show you here. I'm going to bring up the camera raw filter here, and there's an eyedropper here for white balance.
Mm-hmm.
If I select this, pay attention here to what it does. I'm gonna.
Now, where did you hit the
right down here in this blue section here.
Okay.
Now I'll try other blues. Okay, so we can get more subtle effects depending on where we white balance.
On the hue.
But I'm going down here in the shadows. Okay. Yeah, but now I want you to notice we have the bronze sky.
Right.
The bronze sky is the primary indicator of a good white balance for everything from 590 through 720.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't hear Mark.
You don't hear me?
Oh, now we do.
We do.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're having a really bad thunderstorm here. So go back here. We'll try a brighter area of grass.
Okay, so I might not be able to white balance in camera. I might have to do it post-processing.
No, you should be able to do this in camera. But what you need to do is you need to get close in to the area that you want to white balance on, so nothing else is coming through the lens.
All right.
Okay? And once you have this, you really shouldn't have to worry about it. But this is what we're looking for here, okay? We're looking for a bronze-colored sky, and we're looking for monochromatic grasses with a slight blue tint.
Richard, what are you using to process the? Are you using Lightroom?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Well, no, Lightroom has the same exact raw converter.
Right.
Right, but you have to set up a custom profile for it. You go in and you expand your temperature and your tint range, and then you apply the profile, and then you'll get it just like it was shown, like you showed it just now.
Yeah, but he also has the white balance picker in Lightroom.
True, true, and you can do it that way as long as it.
All you have to do is go in. I mean, it's just that simple.
I gotcha.
Right, but I need to also practice more with the camera, which I had for all of, 10 minutes when I first started shooting.
Of course, and that first image you turned out was lovely too. Okay, but this is what we're looking for at 590 as a starting point.
Okay.
Okay. Once we're here, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to run a noise reduction algorithm. I'm going to run Define 2 in the NIC filter set. You can run anything that you want. I just choose to run Define, and I'm going to let it do its automatic. I'm not going to select any noisy areas. I'm just going to do an overall slight noise adjustment in the automatic mode, and I'm going to accept that. All right. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to bring up Vivisa. As soon as this runs, there it goes. Let me bring up Vivisa. And in Vivisa, I'm going to add a bit of saturation. See how it changes the sky?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring that up about 10 to 14%. I'm going to add a bit of contrast. Now, a little bit goes a long way, but infrared cameras have a tendency to be very, very low contrast, okay? And along with that, I'm going to add a little bit of structure. Okay, that brings up micro contrast adjustments in the grasses. I'm going to say okay to that. All right. And now here's where the action is. Now, I know you use Lightroom, but you have Photoshop, right?
No, I've been using Photoshop in your action in Photoshop.
Okay. So I'm going to run the action. It's going to do its thing. And then it's going to leave you in the hue and saturation window. And in the master channel, you're going to select the master channel, and you're going to go down to the cyan.
Right.
All right. And then you're going to adjust the hue of the blue to get rid of the green color in the sky. Okay. This is just simply an artifact of infrared cameras, and you may want to lighten the sky as well, or darken it depending on what your vision is. But we want to get that aqua color out. We do not want that green component in the sky. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go to the reds, and here I'm not going to change the hue. I'm going to change the saturation levels. And I'm doing that while I'm looking at the grasses. I'm looking here, here, and out here in the field. These tall grasses, they're not going to change too much, but the other areas are. Okay? You see, I pull up the saturation, and they shift slightly over towards the pink. And you can also try this in the magentas, but usually you do not get a lot in the magenta unless you go all the way up, and then it's just too much. See?
Mm-hmm.
and try it with the yellows once. Usually it's the same thing in yellows. Now, I am getting a little bit of niceness in this plant right here by upping the yellows a bit, so I'm going to go with that, and then I'm going to say OK. So now these adjustment layers are all in the chromography conversion. So I'm just going to shrink those down. Okay. I am for size. I am going to also merge those layers down. And now I'm going to do my real editing. Now already you see we're getting a decent color in the sky. We're getting decent colors here in the grasses, but we'll do more. Everything else I'm going to do in Viveza. All right, and if you go to the Grand Library or go to my YouTube page, there are 2 videos there that are doing exactly what I'm doing here as well. You can,
right, I've been through those.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attack these statues. Okay. I don't like it.
Desaturate them.
I'm going to just desaturate it. And I don't care that it affects the sky right now. We'll fix that in a minute. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of structure to it. And then I'm just going to, I may even darken that. There we go. And I'm going to just carry these points down the statues. I'm going to go get her. Okay. Let me get her leg a little bit better. And then you see how we're getting a little bit of the bleed over from the statues into the sky? We'll just put it.
So you'll put control points around them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Clean up your mask.
Yep, just actually 2 is enough. Just make them large. And now I brought back a little bit of blue in his butt, so we'll move it. We'll copy control point because I hate blue butt. All right. And then I'll just copy those original points around. All right. And now I'm going to attack the grasses. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I like this out here, so I'll put a control point there. I'm going to bump my red up.
Yeah, those came up nicely for me when I was playing with it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to bump my green up, and I'm going to shift those to yellow. Take away a bit of blue. Take the brightness down a bit, and we're gonna see that's a little bit too green over there. And you notice the difference. You know why that is? The light layer, the level of light on that side of the field's a little bit different. But that's all you do to shift from reds to yellows.
Okay.
All right. Just like that. Okay, and I'm going to go down here. I'm going to put control point on this plant, and I am not going to take that to yellow. I'm going to leave that at red, but I'm going to increase the red a bit, and I'm going to slowly walk that around that plant. And there's some nice pinks over here as well in the plant behind the grasses. And this foreground.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab these grasses, which look nice in themselves, but instead of playing with the colors, I'm just going to add warmth. See what that does?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of ways to achieve the goals here. And I'm just going to copy this around. This is going to be a bit more subdued. All right. Now we also have to desaturate that, and we want this connection between them to be the same. Now, if you don't like the yellows here, you could take that away, and we could go with reds there too. But I find having color contrast really, really helps. So rather than have everything being pinks or golds, I think it's always a good thing. And you could try the warmth as well. But what the warmth's going to do is it's going to enhance the reds. So again, you bring the reds up, bring the greens up. See the subtle shift to yellow. Take the blue down. Okay. I'm going to add a bit of structure to that. See if we can bring out any more detail on those grasses out there. And I'm going to go back around. And do just that. Sometimes you can do great things with these clouds, but now these clouds out here are kind of subdued. I'll put a control point there, and I'll knock that down to monochrome. I'll increase the brightness. I'm going to increase the size. We're just going to kind of carry this across the sky, okay? Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's working pretty good on your image, Richard.
That I didn't try. I'll show you mine when you're finished.
Okay. This speaks great things about your camera.
Thank you.
Okay. But, you know, we're going through this in a hurry.
But you're teaching me a lot because I wasn't even white balancing properly.
Yeah, you gotta have the white balance right, or you're gonna get really funky colors. And you can bring them back in under control, doing what I've just done, but it's harder.
I discovered that.
Okay. So we've done all of this, right? Now we could jump into color effects if you want. And further enhance this with a little bit of tonal contrast or color contrasts. So let's bring this up. I'm going to choose color contrast range. And on this filter, what you do is you go up to the color slider and you move the color slider watching the effect. Now, see, I like what it's doing to the sky there. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's
yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, here it is before, there it is after. Now, it also darkened down here, which I don't like, so you could take a negative control point and drop down here to take that back to where it was. All right. So we can increase the size of this. Yeah, so that helped a lot. Okay. Let's add another filter on top of this. Let's go down and play with the tonal contrast. Sometimes the color contrast range is a little bit too much. Let's turn off the... There we go. Let's just see what the tonal contrast does first. See how it's bringing out the clouds better? Play with our midtones, that's doing the sky. And our shadows, which is going to increase contrast in the dark areas. And that actually helps. So it's minor, before, after. See that?
Yes.
So let's I still want to play with the color contrast, but it needs to be on the other side of tonal. So let's add another filter and put the color contrast range on the other side. See if that makes a difference. Yeah, it does. Where you have these mixed stacks makes a big difference. See?
Yes.
Same filter. I'm going to go with a negative control point to bring that back down there. And let's see if we can bring some detail out in the shadows there. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go with that. We'll say okay. Now you could vignette this too. I mean, we could add yet another filter and go down to vignette lens, which is my vignette of choice. All right. Let's take it away. There. Shift more towards. Man, a lot of times this really makes a difference. But I'm not liking what I'm seeing here. Although the negative vignettes, see that where we brighten the edges? That's kind of different too. But I'm just gonna add just a slight touch. Okay, just like that. Well, let's look. I mean, I don't know if you like that or not, but like I said, this is a highly subjective exercise. This has got to be your vision. You're going to have to go through and play with these and get it the way you think it should be. All right. So let's turn that off and on. So that added a lot of contrast, maybe too much.
We can do the layer, a percentage of the layer.
Yes, we can. I actually like the more subdued look without the color effects. I prefer this, but again, that's my artistic mind speaking to me. But once you have this, okay, and I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to leave these here. I am going to jump in now. We're going to do our black and white conversion. Okay, now here's just the normal conversion. We're going to run some colors. We're going to look at filters. Darken the sky, that helps. A little less dark. Let's go to green. Blue. Ick. I think the red really helps, don't you think?
Yes.
But let's look at some of the other. Let's try underexposing it. That's not bad either. Let's go down to some of the others. I like number 5. I like high structure. And we can do before and after. You got to be careful because it can do too much.
It really brings out the clouds.
It does. But it's also haloing right here, ever so slightly. And you don't notice it if you're looking at the picture until you go back and forth. Let's go look at number 6. This is the same filter but softer. See? Let's go down and look at some of the other ones. I like...
This is where I wish they would update this set so that they would improve these algorithms, but I doubt that will ever happen.
Oh no, it's going to happen, but they're gonna make you pay wildly for it.
I paid wildly for my first set.
Yeah, I did too, but they're free now. They're giving them away free.
No, I know.
I do like the full spectrum. I think that works very well.
Which one is that?
Let me do the fine art process. Yeah, let's go back to full spectrum. It's number 16.
Okay.
Or 18. 17.
Yeah,
This is full spectrum. This is full spectrum inverse. I like this. Now I'm going to add a filter on top of that. That's a little too dark.
Well, you can dial it down, can't you?
Oh yeah, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I've gone with a yellow, and now I can play with the strength. I don't want it too dark because then the head is hard, it's hard to separate the head dynamically from the sky.
Mhm.
So there it is before, red, yellow. Take the strength down, although I like the effect of the red on the clouds. Let's try that and take the strength down. Yeah, that's not bad. And let's decrease overall brightness a little bit. And let's bump up structure a little. Just a little bit. And go with that. Now, I did this all in the adjustment layers. You don't have to do these, as you probably already know, in separate files. Okay, I've got this all here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're going to take that one and throw him away. If you want the color one, you just turn off that layer.
Right.
Okay. And this is how I will post-process every single infrared image and color image I do. First for color and then for black and white. And the reason we do it that way is to give the black and white conversion software a more blended, more balanced color palette to work from. Okay. Let's turn this off.
I've got to run. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Thank you for stopping.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jen.
Now you see even here how the red is creeping up the right-hand side of the histogram?
Yes.
Okay, it's not too bad. And when we turn the monochrome on, it balances, it equalizes all three color channels, and you can see how it's the red channel that's really causing this. The yellow channel's up, the yellow's up there now too, but it's all cause and effect from the red. The red's the heart of the monster. All right, and anyways, that's all that I would do. Let's save this. Let's save as. We'll save this as a PSD. And I'll put this on the desktop. Oh, you know what? This is a big file. This is probably 16 bits. So we'll let this finish, and then I'm going to drop it down to 8 bits so that I can put this back up in that group drive, and you can have that to play with the layers there. Okay.
Great. I appreciate that.
But we'll convert it to 8 bits so it's smaller. See how long it's taking it to save? This is a huge file. There we go. Yep, we'll convert that to 8 bits. And we'll save it again now. Oh yeah, much faster, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. The horizon looks a little bit crooked, but that could be an optical illusion. Is that an airport out there?
That's DFW Airport.
Okay. Because even up here, it's higher than down here. Is it hilly or is it just a little crooked?
No, this is a knoll, and actually I tried to get one with an airplane landing between them.
Oh, that would have been nice.
But the exposure was better on this one.
Okay. Then when we're all done with it, especially in the monochrome version, I would run define one last time, and I will look at the dark areas very closely. And I'm looking down here in this window on the bottom. I'm seeing a little tiny bit of noise, not a terrible lot. You probably can't see it on the video feed. So I'm going to change this over now to manual. and I'm going to put a couple of selection rectangles. Now, let me look down here. The white looks okay. Let's measure the noise again. Yeah, all that noise in the sky is gone now. Run that. Now remember that while I ran define, it's only affecting the layer below it.
Right.
So see here, the define picks up the data from the layer below it. So if you're going to print this in color, you might want to go down here and do another define between these two. Okay?
Okay.
So let's save this again.
Now this is where I get confused trying to use smart objects, but that's another hangout.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other concept on post-processing. I very rarely use smart objects. It's nice having them and being able to go in and re-edit the individual layers again. But smart objects increase the size of the image file 20 or 30-fold.
Wow.
Oh, they're incredibly high overhead when in terms of the size of the file. All right. So that's, and if you have smart objects and you're printing with a RIP, a lot of RIPs will choke and puke on smart object files that you try to feed it.
We could just flatten it.
You could flatten it, yes. But I normally flatten my images when I'm done editing and saving them anyways. So having smart objects is a waste of time. You would be shocked at the size of my image library on this computer. The finished images, the printable images, okay, the files are huge. And that's even shrunk down to a single layer. And all of my master images are all 16 bits. But I also have images that I've upsized for big canvas gallery wraps. Those get turned into 8-bit files because the files are so huge. You measure them in gigabytes. All right. So there is that. Let's close this down. Let's bring back up. You guys can still hear me, right?
I can hear you, but
yeah, I can hear
William,
you. Yeah, I can hear you.
I've done enough talking. You take over, William.
All right. So, questions?
None right off the bat. I did have a question about silver effects and how you're processing. They use there's an option for film types, right?
Yes.
They also have the sensitivities in the color options, you know, with the colors as well. Do you use that?
No, I do not. I don't do any film emulations.
Okay.
Because I don't care about it, because I'm adjusting each image individually.
Right.
Based on my perceived perfect visualization of what I want.
Right.
Okay. So, no, I don't do that. And what those are doing too, those are adding grain.
Right.
And I'm not interested in that. I shoot ultra fine grain films, and I use ultra fine grain developers to not have grains. So that's just self-defeating for my artistic vision, but for others it's not. Okay. If you like that, then go ahead and use it. Of course, it's all highly subjective, anyways. I mean, we all realize that. But infrared's easy once you grasp the basics of the post-processing and get a true understanding of what the white balance does. Some cameras are hard to white balance. My XC2 wasn't. It just wasn't. And it was... What was the XC2? It was 590 nanometers. Okay.
I just need to practice more.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, you're just starting. No, and the images that you're turning out are great. There's something to be said about being able to shoot in the middle of the day in the bright, fierce, high contrast sun, and that's what infrared likes the best. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Also, as I was saying to Jennifer, Richard and William, man, if it storms, grab that camera and go out in it. Infrared can see deep into the structure of the clouds that your eyes don't have the capability to penetrate.
Would you shoot at 720 or 830 for clouds?
I would probably shoot at 720, and I'm going to show you why, okay? Or even 590. Let me share again with you. And I am going to bring up Bridge. Let's see here. Let's go to the desktop. There we go. Let's go down to my weather. All right, this is 590 nanometers. Okay. This is a rotating supercell over Pawleys Island, which is where I live. We don't get storms like this, but maybe once every year or two. And I want you to notice the water spouts here. See them?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are 3 of them. But my eyes could not see the structure in this rotating supercell. But the 590 nanometers, it just went right through it. It pulled out structure that I mean, look at the fingers here. All right. This is a section of mammatus clouds. God only knows why there's mammatus clouds here. That's normally after the storm's passed. Okay. But this was a series. I'm actually, here it is, the difference between monochrome and black and white infrared. I'm actually looking a little to the left. I'm standing on a dock out over the salt marsh. The ocean's over here. My daughter called me on the phone, and she was on the beach, and says, "Dad, there's water spouts here." I turned 10 degrees to the right, and this is what I saw. Okay? But I would never have gotten this great image unless I'd had that infrared camera with me. Okay, here is another infrared. All right. Let's see, do we have any other? Oh, look at the details here. All right, this is again the outside edge of a wall cloud under a rotating supercell. And what was this one? This is probably 665 nanometers converted to black and white. Okay. Here's 720 nanometers during Hurricane Hannah under the Pawleys Island pier. It was an ultra-long exposure. The waves were about 15 feet high, roaring down underneath this pier. And I was able to get them smoothed out a bit, but yet look at the hurricane out at the at the horizon over the ocean. Infrared. Here's another infrared. infrared is really great for seeing through cloud structure. This is the Arenal volcano in Costa Rica that's active. All right, and this is from the backside, and there are big boulders falling down here, and at night you can see lava. But look at this lenticular cloud and how we can see structure in infrared's good in the snow. Okay, this is out on Old Route 66 at the Painted Desert out west. Okay, and we were having this snowstorm, and it was prismatic snow, so it was highly reflective. But infrared I was able to pull out information. Okay, here's another part of the Painted Desert in infrared. I chose to do this one in color. The black and white looks okay, but I think this one is better served in color. Okay, so when it comes to weather, infrared cameras are your friends, okay? I've done some lightning shots in infrared, but not too terribly much. I do like working with lightning, especially daylight lightning. Okay, but lightning photography is a subject for another hangout. I do a lot of lightning photography, a lot. In fact, I was thinking about going out tonight, but I was just too lazy to go out. And I like daytime lightning. All right. But you have to have the right kind of camera for lightning. It has to be ultra fast. So you want mirrorless, that's for sure. You want a camera that has an electronic shutter, because then you don't have the delay while the shutter opens. Okay. But you can do lightning with any kind of a camera.
Are you using that trigger?
Oh, you bet I am. That's the only way you're going to get daytime lightning. Okay, now this one I didn't have a trigger with me. I was out there shooting hundreds of images hoping to catch lightning.
Catch lightning in a bottle?
What?
Try to catch lightning in a bottle, or
Yep.
in this case, in a frame?
Yep, you got it.
Gotcha.
I took hundreds of images before I got this one, but this one worked out exceptionally well because I was on my daughter's porch, and I'm just catching the rain band. You can see it starting to fall here. Okay, the wall cloud's starting to build, but it's not quite there yet. But very moody, very dark image. And even though it's a horrible foreground, it's still a lightning shot. So, you know, that makes me happy. Double strikes. Now this is with the lightning trigger. This is on the back porch of my gallery down in Georgetown. So, like I said, I really, really like storm. I like lightning, all of this kind of stuff. Okay. This is with,
that.
yeah. This is with the Fuji X100. All right. I love the Fuji cameras. You know.
Is this the 850 or is this a regular image?
No, this was 720 that I converted.
Okay.
I had since Kalari called me and said they wanted to give me an AR coating so that I could promote it for them. I said, well, I have to test it. So I sent this camera back, and I had it done at 850 nanometers with the AR. So now my X100 is 850 nanometers. But look at how infrared can see into the structure of that storm.
But if you have a camera that doesn't have a hotspot problem, how can you tell if the AR is helping?
This camera had a hotspot problem.
Oh.
The X100S had a hotspot. It was mild, but it was in every single shot. Now the hotspot's gone. I don't have any hotspots at all. The AR coding really works. It's worth the money.
Well, take a look at some of my uploads.
I did. I did actually. Let's go to that. Check.
Sorry, Michael, William.
No, this is fine. I'm learning a lot.
Just checking my eBay auction. Nobody's trying to outbid me on that yet.
Oh, don't worry. I got 40 minutes.
Yeah, I know. But you're not going to spend that on that camera.
No, I wouldn't.
I know you. Okay.
It's on the Hangout. Yeah, there you go.
Oops, what did I do?
You started a Hangout.
I can't have a Hangout in a Hangout. Ha! It won't let me do that.
Can you go to that directory?
That I can do. Let's see here. Where did you put it?
Whatever the Hangout images are stored in.
Yours?
No, I just uploaded them to the Hangout. So,
just
there any way?
Okay.
No. They should be.
No, they're not on the group drive unless you.
No, they wouldn't be. They would not be.
Unless you put them in your.
No, they're just on the regular Hangout.
Yeah, no. So no, I can't get to those. Unfortunately, I can't do that. But like I said, we can do more of this again. We'll do something next weekend. Although I'm going to be in Hilton Head next weekend, so I might put you off.
That's fine.
I'll have to see. I need to do something every weekend. That's my goal.
I'll be here.
Okay. But I'll be home Sunday, so that's what I'll do. I'll do it Sunday night.
Sounds good.
So we'll do another hangout this Sunday. All right, another round table. And any image that you want to put up, we can discuss. Okay.
All right.
All right. Did that answer any of your questions?
A lot of them.
Many.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you tonight, unless you have any other questions.
For now, no.
Okay.
Let me go out and mess up some more pictures, and then I'll probably have some questions.
All right.
All right. So when we get off, I did screen captures. It had all the XF data in the screen capture.
Yes, I saw those when I went back and looked.
So I didn't open up the 18 to 55 to see where it would go away, but it's a fairly small hotspot.
Yeah, it was small, but it was still noticeable.
Right.
But if you had stopped down maybe one more stop, it would have probably have disappeared. Mm-hmm. When I used the 18 to 55 with a non-AR coding, it was hotspots from F4 up.
Okay.
Okay.
But the 16 to 55 looked nice. Now there was one when I closed it down to F22 at 55 millimeters, but
then don't use it there.
No, I was seeing how far. Yes.
Yeah, no, that works. That works for me.
Because I don't shoot at F22.
Yeah. Well, you will when we get into long exposures.
Okay, but I guess I'm worried about diffraction.
Yeah, but long exposures we don't care about. We don't care about diffraction.
Okay.
But that, again, is a subject of another hangout
Right.
or a workshop. So.
Right. Enjoyed it very much.
Okay. Well, go out and shoot some more, get some more questions, and we'll go over and we'll do some more, okay?
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Now let me stop the broadcast here.